Hi. Well, I am going to talk to you about a very surprising Stephen King book called Fairy Tale. So, Fairy Tale was published in 2022. This is actually 2024 right now, May. So it's been around a little while, but for me, it's not that long. And it is so good. I mean, really, it really is a fairy tale. It has everything in it that a person could possibly want from a fairy tale. So there is this old man and his dog, Radar. And then there's a teenage boy whose mother was killed when he was very young in a tragic accident. Now, one day, the old man is injured, and the boy, Charlie, is walking by the house and hears the old man calling out for help. Charlie goes in and gives him a hand. Well, Charlie ends up sticking around and helping the man recover over a long period of time, and he learns a lot about the old man and what's going on in his life. Everybody in the neighborhood hates him because he's just a crotchety, grumpy old stick-in-the-mud, mean old man. But as Charlie gets to know him, Charlie finds out that this man, Mr. Bowden, is guarding the entrance to another world that is on his property. So this other world is a fairy tale world. So it has everything. This fairy tale world, it has a prince and a princess and an ogre, a kingdom. There's all kinds of heroism. There's Caligula type games that are played. There's magic butterflies. We have intrigue and everything that you could expect from a fairy tale. Let me read you a little bit. Let's see, 5:31. Okay. There was a good-sized hole in the wainscoting behind the pedestal where the statue of the tentacled horror had stood, which made me remember the defective gas jet in Deep Malin. That Deep Malin is like underground torture chambers and rooms underneath the castle. A draft moaned in the hollow spaces behind the wall, and bad-smelling air puffed out. That's where the little lord came from. Sure as cream makes butter, Iota said. He had taken the lead in our procession. Lee, close behind him, Lee is the princess. I tried to walk beside her, but she pulled ahead without giving me a glance. Rads took her place. The snob still mounted on her back. So the snob is this little, like a bug that's a pretty good size that's actually extremely intelligent. So isn't that cool for a fairy tale? Jaya and Eris brought up the rear. We passed the gold-framed mirrors, I remembered, and came at last to the mahogany door that gave on the Lord's high apartment. Because it was one of the few with electrical power, I guess the chambers might once have belonged to Ludum, King Jan's chancellor, but I never knew for sure. Lee drew her dagger, and I drew the 45, but we both stayed behind Iota. He looked at Jaya and mouthed, "Behind the door." She nodded. Iota rapped with his big dirty knuckles. "Anyone at home? May we come in?" Without waiting for an answer, He turned the knob, gold, of course, and drove it with his shoulder into the door. It flew back, and there was a grunt from behind it. Iota pulled the knob toward him and then slammed the door back again. Another grunt. A third time, a fourth, the grunts stopped. A fifth. Radar, remember that's the dog? Radar was barking. Then I pulled the door towards him again. The man who had been standing behind it fell out in a heap on the thick red rug that covered the floor of the foyer. His forehead, nose, and mouth were bleeding. In one hand, he held a long knife. He turned his face up to look at us. I recognized one of the men from the VIP box, the one with the scar on his cheek, who had been whispering to Petra. He raised his knife and flailed out with it, laying a shallow cut across Iota's hairy shin. Nah, none of that, kitty, I said, and stepped on the scarred man's wrist, bearing down until the man's hand opened and the knife dropped to the rug. I picked it up and tucked it into Mr. Bowditch's concho belt, opposite the holster. Lee dropped to her knees beside the scarred man. He recognized her and smiled. Blood oozed from his split lips. Princess Lee, I am Jeff. Once I put a bandage on your arm when you cut it. Do you remember? She nodded. And once I pushed your little pony trap out of a mud puddle. There were 3 of us, but my love for you was strong and I pushed the hardest. Do you remember that as well? She nodded again. I never wanted to be part of this. I swear to you, Princess. Will you let me go in memory of the old days when you were a child and Lilimar was fair? She nodded that she would indeed let him go and plunged her dagger up to the hilt into one of his upstaring eyes. Ha! Pretty good. It's good. It really is. Okay, that's all the reading that I'll do for today. So, I just want to say that I didn't think Stephen King could write a fairy tale, but he did. And it was lacking absolutely nothing. So I guess I'll say I would recommend this book to anybody who likes fairy tales or Stephen King, or if, like me, you like the idea of going to another world through an opening. Like I like going to the center of the earth or moving through a portal into another dimension. I like that kind of stuff. So for those folks, this is cool. So I guess that's all I have to say to you today. Enjoy your books, and I will too. This is my Aunt Effie saying bye.